Well, as I said, we continue our focus on the BRICS summit in Durban, and Samantha Loring spoke to Naina Kidwai, who is country manager at HSBC India, looking at the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry's global competitiveness.
We have an 80-plus delegation with representatives from large industry, companies which have interests in South Africa, given that the location is indeed in Durban, and also some mid-sized companies, and also companies as different as from auto manufacturing to education. We have a couple of players who are looking at the education space as well. So very varied, and all with aspirations really to grow their businesses globally.
When it comes to the BRICS group of nations, do you see it as having benefited the Indian private sector to date?
Well, it's quite a new formation at the moment, but I think what it does is develops a very strong relationship driver between countries which have not discovered each other to the full potential. So there are, for example, traditional relationships India has had with Russia, new relationships with China, but Brazil is still uncharted territories. More and more Indian companies are now looking at Brazil, looking at refreshing age-old ties with South Africa. So the opportunity to create this block of companies, of countries which are high growth, and build the economic agenda and the business agenda through that is a very important effort. And I think the learnings will come from the fact that our experiences, indeed our challenges, are often very common. So if you look at the sectors we have identified as key drivers, which we hope to discuss through the council, the new business BRICS Council, which has been set up, which will meet tomorrow. And in that, agriculture is very big. Now, agriculture is important in Brazil, and there are technologies and learnings there which India and China could well learn from. So coming together to discuss sectors like agriculture, around agricultural productivity, around food processing are important. You look at the second area of infrastructure. All of us countries need the infrastructure. Some, like China, do it really well. Others, like India, need to get a lot better at it. So again, learnings not just on how to do it, as in roads, but how to finance and how to build this out. So I think a lot of the collaboration is about business, finding the common areas to work through, and also sharing the challenges and how you get around it.
What can be done to leverage also offer India's competitive advantage and, of course, expertise when it comes to the pharmaceutical sector and being a leader in the generic space, more specifically?
I think, it's a natural space because India has over the years developed the generic space to become what is a low-cost producer in global markets. And this is a natural into countries like ours where there are many impoverished people, where the price that is paid for life-saving drugs has to be affordable. And it isn't just about pharmaceutical, it is about the whole healthcare space. How do you provide affordable healthcare? And India is experimenting with everything from telemedicine through to how our hospitals should be staffed. So the skills that come with paramedics, with nurses, and the equipment handling therein are all skill sets which we can benefit from sharing and teaching each other about. So it is a very important sector, and I'm glad you asked, the healthcare and pharmaceutical sector.
Yeah. Just looking at the discrepancies between and some of the differences, if you look at the BRICS group of nations, you've got Russia with a GDP per capita of $26,000 and India sitting at around $1,200. So huge differences. Specifically on the Indian front, what has been done in terms of addressing, of course, the low levels of poverty, and how could a grouping within BRICS help to alleviate poverty?
Well, I think the one common theme which I think all of us benefit from is that growth begets development. Without growth, you do not have the revenues to fund development programs. So the two actually go hand in hand. And the growth agenda is an economic and business agenda, which then allows government through tax collection to actually use the funding for development. So in that there is a common theme. All of us have basically come together because we were high growth countries. So that defining feature is important. All of us are now suffering from slowing down of that growth. So again, what do we need to make sure we go back to the success that we tasted?